Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to see how to automate Webtable in Selenium. Before starting, let us first understand what a table is. So a table comprises of rows and columns, and a table will have a header. So for example, employee ID can be one header column, name can be one column, salary can be one column, right? And what are the rows? Rows are the values for all these columns. For example, so 101 can be employee ID, name can be Smith, and salary can be some 2000, right? So this is one row. So the values for all the columns, right, combined together called a row. Likewise, we can have any number of rows, right? So if you have values for all these columns, all these together comprises a row, right? And how do we actually represent, right? Represent, or what do we call this one box, small box is a cell. So this is what a cell is. And how do we represent a cell is using the row and column number. So let me represent here. This is column 1, column 2, and column 3. And when we read from left to right, right? So that's a row, right? Row 2, and this is row 3. So we have in this table 3 rows and 3 columns. And if I wanted to read something like, say, for example, Adam, right? So Adam is present, or let's say, for example, I have a table. Now I wanted to read second row, first column. So how do you do that? This is the second row and first column, column 1. So here we have the value as 102. So you can see it here, right? So this is the value. 102 is the value. So in the same way, if I wanted to retrieve, first row, third column. So this is the first row, you see, and the third column, column 3, right? So this is the column 3, right? So this is the value, first row, third column, right? So this is the basic knowledge we need to have about a table. Now let us understand what is a web table. So a web table is also like a normal table, but which is present on the web using HTML tags. So now let us see an example on a web table. So you see a table here, right? So which has the headers, company, group, previous close, current price, and the percentage change, right? So these are the column headers for this table. And you see this table, right? So there are number of values here. So each highlighted part here, right, is one row, right? And columns are all the company names, right, is one column. Group values are one column. Previous close is one column, likewise. So these are the columns, and rows are the complete values for all the columns is called a row, right? Now let us inspect how this table is built on this web, right? So you see a table tag here, right? So if I hover on this, entire table got highlighted. You can see that, right? T head. T head is table header. All the headers of the table is represented using T head tag. TR. TR means table row. So within the row, within the header, we have one row that is represented with TR, and within the head TR, we have the actual table headers, right? TH, company, right? So again, when I hover on the second one, group is represented with another TH tag, previous close, current price. Likewise, we can have any number of headers. So this is how it is represented. It is about header part. Now within the same table, so if I actually collapse this, you see T body here, right? So table body. Again, table body has number of rows. See, when I hover on this, this is the second row. This is the third row. Now within the row, we'll expand and see what it has. So within the row, right, we have table data. So TD represents table data. See, if I hover on this, I am onto the first of all, I am onto the first row. See, TR. Now I am going in deep into that row. And the first TD represents the first column value. Then second value in the first row, third value. See, each one is represented with tag called TD, right? So this is the basic HTML structure for a web table, for constructing a web table, right? So this is all we need to know. Now let us automate this table. So what are we going to automate here is we are going to, randomly get one cell data from this table. Then what we'll do is we'll actually get the count of the columns, how many columns this table has, and finally we'll actually get the number of rows it has. It has many number of rows, right? So let's find it out how many number of rows it has. So let's start with that. So you see, I have a class here. I have set my WebDriver to the Chrome driver extension, created a WebDriver instance and instantiated it to the Chrome driver. Now, so it has to actually instantiate a Chrome browser, and I maximized the browser window. Now, let us navigate to this URL, the example URL. We navigated to that. Now, what we wanted to do? We wanted to retrieve any one value of this table, right? Let's say, for example, I wanted to retrieve maybe this start ILXC, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, third row. Maybe I wanted to get the current price. For third row, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth column, current price is the fourth column. So how do you get that? For example, let's inspect this. I'll go to copy XPath and get it here. Find element by dot XPath. So if you read here this XPath, it is very clear, right? So till here, you can just skip it. Like till here, it actually identified the table, right? Then table, within the table, I'm interested to read the body of the table. So T body, TR represents the table row. So we wanted to read the third row, right? 1, 2, 3, third row. Fine. What we wanted to read? We wanted to read the current price. Current price is the fourth column. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth column, right? So TR of 3 slash TD of 4. TD represents table data, cell data, right? TD of 4. So which actually should return us this value, right? And how do we get that? Find element dot get text gives us the value present in that particular cell. So let's actually print that on the console and verify. Let me execute the program now. Yeah. So we can see the value here, right? So the same value. This is how we can retrieve any random value from a table. So we get the XPath and you see here, right? TR represents the row and TD represents the column. So third row, fourth column. So like this, you can actually retrieve any cell data. You just need to know the in which row it is present and what's the column number it is present in. So with that, we can easily fetch the data of that cell within that web table, right? Now let us find the number of columns for this web table. So how do we do that? Let's see that. I'm just going to this header, inspecting this header part. You see this header, right? So T head, TR represents a complete header. See, so let's take the XPath for this. Till here we should take actually. So this is the header part, right? Driver dot find element. We are using XPath here again. And if I take TH of 1, right? So it actually gives me the first cell, right? So within the header company. But I am interested to know how many such THs are present within this TR, right? So within this TR is table row within the header. I wanted to find how many such THs are there. TH represents table headers, right? So we are not going to provide any index here, right? So within the TR, how many THs are there is what we wanted to find it out. So we'll provide the XPath till TH, right? And if you observe, so these are the many THs here, right? So it is not only one. So we have many, each th is one web element. So if we are retrieving many values, right, many web elements, then we should actually call the find elements, right, find elements method. And this actually returns a list of web elements, list of web elements. I'll just say this, these are the columns, right, anyway. So let's call this as all columns. These are the actual column headers, right? Import list from java.util package and web element from Selenium package. Now we have all these headers within this all columns object, right? So now we wanted to actually know the size of the columns, right? So all columns dot size. This is the number of columns, right? So we can say that here, number of columns. Done. And you can see here, number of columns got displayed here, 5. So you can actually verify this, right? So there are 5 header columns, the company, group, previous closure, current price, and percentage. So this is how we need to find out the number of columns. And now we are interested to find the number of rows. So, or what we'll do is we wanted to display all these columns. Now that we know the column size, we wanted to display the all column headers. So how do we do that? Let's see that. So we are going to write a loop here, right? It starts from 1. And remember, in Webtable, index for a row or column starts with 1. Usually, when we work with arrays, right? So we usually start the index with 0. But remember, in Webtable, rows or columns starts with the index 1, right? I less than all columns, or yeah, all column size. We wanted to print names of all the headers, right? So we can take the same XPath. It will be the same, right? So we'll take the same XPath here. Driver dot find element XPath. And this time what we are going to do, we wanted to read all the headers, right? So let me go back and show you. So th company, th group, right? So all these values we wanted to print. If I wanted to display only company, I would just say th of 1, then I would get company, right? If I wanted to get the second one, second column group, I'll just replace this here with 2, right? So that's how we actually fetch the column headers. But this time we wanted to display all the headers, so we'll just replace this with the index, right? So that's the reason we have it, the loop. So I'll just have this like this, and then replace this number with index. And it actually prints in each line. So we wanted all the column headers on the same line. So I just using print instead of system.out.println, I'm using print method. Then what I'll do here is, after displaying each column value, I'm going to leave some space. All right, now let's execute this code and verify. We wanted the column size and also wanted to display the column headers here. So, okay, there is something missing here. Let's verify. See, number of columns, header, and we close the XPath. We close the find element. Okay. And if you observe, we didn't get any error. This is a runtime error, right? So let's verify what it is about. th4, right? It has to be less than or equal to the size, so that all the columns has to be displayed, but still there's some issue in this. So let's verify what it is. Got it. So we actually identified the element, right? We actually found the element, but from the element, we wanted to get the text of that element, right? Get text, get text. So driver dot find element by dot xpath. So here that xpath was found, and then from the element, we are actually extracting the text out of it, right? Let us execute it again. All right, you can see it here clearly now, right? Number of columns are 5, and you can see the column names as well, right here. So the 5 column names got displayed. So this is how we can actually, get the columns, number of columns, and also display the column names. Now let us, in the same way, find out the number of rows and also print all the rows, or at least some of the rows, after finding the number of rows we have, right? So how do we do that? Again, like driver dot find element. Let's go back and inspect about the rows. So let's say, for example, this is my first row. See, this is my complete row, right? So if I collapse this, this is second row, this is third row. Like this, I am interested to actually count how many TRs are there within this T body. So the TR, each TR represents one row, right? So now I am interested to find out how many such TRs are there, so that I would get the actual number of rows. So I copied the XPath. So I don't need the first row, I need the number of rows. So I'm just not having that index specified for the row, right? So this actually returns many elements. So as I'm not specifying an index, after T-body, how many such TRs are there? All that I wanted to find using the XPath. So I'm using find elements method, which returns a list of web elements. This I'm going to call this as all rows. And then let's display the size of the rows, number of rows. All rows dot size. So you can see it now, right? So, okay, number of, yeah, it actually displayed here. So after printing this, we didn't had system.out.println. That's the reason it came in the same line. No issues. We'll just leave one line after printing the column header, so that it actually displays in the next line, right? Number of rows overall we have 198, right? 198 rows we have. So you can see here. So these are the number of rows, and this is the count. There are like 198 rows, such rows. So like there are 198 companies in this example. All right. So now we are interested to print all these values, right? So if you wanted to print one row, so this is one row, right? So which has values for all the columns. You can see it here, right? The highlighted part. This is one row. Likewise, we wanted to print all these rows, right? So let's actually do that now using two loops, one for reading the rows and another for reading the columns. And before that, what we'll do is, so this is not a good practice. If you see here, I am calculating size for each time, like how many times this loop will be running. So each time I'm actually using this size method, which actually impacts the performance, and it's not a good practice. So in that case, what we should do is, if you wanted to use that in the loop, right? So let's actually have it in a variable, right? Column size, all columns dot size. I'll have that in one variable, and we'll use this variable everywhere. Wherever I want it, I can just use this variable. In the same way, for rows as well. So once we find out the number of rows, we'll just say row size. And we'll use this row size wherever we wanted to find out the row size. All right, now what we'll do is for each row and for each column, we wanted to print the values, right? So we wanted to actually get the values for all these rows. And for each row, for each column, we wanted to have the value. That's what we call it as a cell, right? So that's what we wanted to display now. So each cell will be again represented using a row and column. So I'm going to write a loop, first loop for row less than how many such rows I have, row size, that I have it in the row size. And for each row, what we wanted to do, starting from column 1 till whatever may be the number of columns, for all the columns, I wanted to display the value of it. Driver dot find element. We'll use again XPath, and let's inspect one of these cells. Say for example, first cell, or let's actually have this one. You can inspect any of this cell. Right click, copy, XPath, and we can actually verify it here itself, right? Using selector sub, you can write it here, put it here and select and hit enter. See this part got highlighted here, right? And if I wanted to get the, so you can clearly see it is of first row tr1 td2, means first row second column. Say for example, I wanted to have the next value in the same row td3. See, it got highlighted. Next row, how do next cell value, I would just replace 3 with 4, so it just jumps on to the next column value in the same row. And if I wanted to have a different row, next row, then what should I do? I just need to replace the 1 with 2 so that it jumps onto the second row. See, it jumps onto the second row first column, just td1. See, it just jumps onto the first column of the second row. So all that we can actually control using this tr and td, rows and columns, right? So this is what we are going to use now in our program. So tr and td, right? So in tr, we are going to use the index row, and in td we'll be using the index column, and print all the values of the cells, right? Now I think I already copied the path, so just replace this with the path, and we just need to replace this index with the this we should not have this hard coded value, right? So we'll just replace this with the index. I'll just have this as a row, and then we'll close the row td, and then we are going to have this as column. So td is used to represent the column, right? Tr row. All right. Seems like there is some issue. Syntax error. Tr row. Okay, we didn't close here. So tr, usually what we represent a row number here, right? So, but we are actually replacing that with the common index, as we are going to loop through this, through all the rows and columns. And td column, right? So you can see it here. I just replaced td. Usually we will have a number here used to represent the column, but I just replaced that with the column variable, right? Which we used as an index for the column, right? And we are not interested to print all the values in a new line. So I'm just using print here. And then after displaying each value, what we are going to do is we are going to leave some space here. And once a row is completed, so you can see it here, this is all one row. So once this loop is completed, maybe say, let's say for example, first row, then we wanted to have the second row printed in the next line. So I'm going to have println here so that it before it goes to the second row, it's actually displayed in the next line. All right, let's execute the code now. Yeah, now let's go back. Okay, again, we missed that get text, right? So let's go back. By dot xpath dot find element, and then we are interested to get the text. Get, not here, here, dot get text. Driver dot find element xpath. Okay, here it has to be. Y dot xpath is closed. All right. Okay, we didn't close this system dot out dot ln. Get text. So let me repeat it here. What did we do? We wanted to get all the cell values, right, from this table. So each cell value, how it is represented using a row and column number. So as we wanted to fetch all the rows and all the columns, so we had one outer loop for row, and for each row, we wanted to display all the columns. We had some 5 columns, right? So we wanted to display column values for all the rows, right? So this actually is used for displaying all the columns within a row, right? So one loop for row and another loop for column. And let me explain this XPath, right? So this is what we get it from the this tools, right? Browser tools, or and we verified that in the selectors hub. And what did we see here? TR and TD. So TR we represent the row index, TD we represent the column index, and we just replaced it with the indexes here and got the text out of it, right? As we wanted to leave a space after displaying each value, we just did that. And after displaying all the column values, so we wanted to, before going to the next row, right? So once we are completed with one row, before going to the next row, we wanted to leave one line here. So we had the system.out.println here, right? So let's execute the code now. Let's go back, and now you can see all the values are getting, displayed here, right? Let me maximize this. You can see here all the values getting displayed, right? So there were like I think 198 rows, right? So all the rows are getting displayed here. So this is how we can actually, read a web table and find the column size, find the row size, and can actually fetch all the values from the web table. So let me show you here. Somehow it is not getting maximized. All right, anyway, you can see it here, right? So it has number of columns 5. You can see the company, group, previous closure. These are the column headers. Number of rows is 198, and these are the actual values read from the web table. You can see each value here, right? So each cell value is displayed here. So this is how we can actually read the values from a web table. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.